Hello and welcome to Running the Table, the podcast where we run through everything on the table in the world of sports. And we are getting deeper and deeper into the NCAA tournament. We're getting closer and closer to crowning a national champion. And Tim, the Sweet 16 games, they did not
Oh
disappoint.
boy, what
We
a
had
round.
we had a fantastic slate of games top to bottom. And as we recap those, 8 are left standing. So we are going to predict the Elite Eight, who moves into
And
the
no
elusive
one seeds.
Final Four with no one seed. So things get really interesting from this point on. So, Tim, are you ready to go?
Let's run it, baby.
But before we get into Elite Eight predictions, we are going to recap the Sweet 16, how we did and how we're doing as a whole. And we both had a pretty good round. We both went 6-2 individually in the Sweet 16.
Yeah.
Tim, you actually ended the first day 4-0, which
Yeah,
just
man, the
just
second
built.
day was a bit rough for me, but after the first day, I was like, oh,
Yeah,
but
you building on that. Like you still have the lead. I'm 2 games back. Tim, you're sitting at 41-15. I'm at 39-17, which is
hey,
really
we're
great.
both doing really well though, which is cool.
Yeah, which is awesome to
Especially in a
see.
tournament as crazy as this. Like, I mean, you talk about
Oh yeah,
16 seed upset, 15 seed to the Sweet 16, no one seeds going into the Elite Eight. There's been a lot of craziness. And I mean, I think we all kind of saw that there was going to be a lot of this in this tournament with the parity between seeds top to bottom. But we got some crazy matchups to look at in this one.
yeah, not quite taking a victory lap yet because there's so much more tournament to break down and there's so much more
No,
craziness that could potentially happen. But we are doing awesome so far, and we're going to look to keep it rolling.
let's
But
keep it up.
let's get into the Elite Eight predictions, starting with San Diego State and Creighton. San Diego State, we did not expect them
Wow.
to be here. They put the
No.
clamps on Alabama's high-powered offense, just left them absolutely behind, beat them 71-64, and punched their ticket right into the Elite Eight. On the other side, it was Creighton versus the Cinderella Princeton. Princeton gave them a real scare in the first half. Creighton was,
They were keeping up with them.
yeah, they were keeping pace. And then in the second half, the real Creighton with Ryan Kalkbrenner, they showed up and they pretty much put the game away. But this is a really
Well,
interesting, yeah.
it was all offense in the first half, and that was what
Mm-hmm.
was crazy to me. We talk about
Yeah.
both teams ending in 40 points in the first half. Realistically, Princeton just kind of lost their stride in the second half, and that's where Creighton was able to pull away. But you're seeing just how high powered this Creighton offense really can be.
Yeah, just a lot of offense in general in this round. Creighton putting up 86 points. Anytime you get over 80 in the game, it was like it's a real offensive battle. But it's that dichotomy between these two teams, the offense of Creighton versus the defense of San Diego State.
Seen it a lot in this tournament.
Yeah, who's going to come out on top? And I'm going to stick with my guns. I'm going to stick with what brought me here. And in my original bracket, I had Alabama getting to this point to beat Creighton, but I had Creighton advancing to the Final Four, which is what I'm going to stick with. Creighton has all the elements that you look for in a Final Four team. The offense is there. The defense can hold its own. You have that guy running the point. You have that 3-point shooter, and you have that big man that are all really talented and control the floor on any given game. So I'm going to pick Creighton to move on to the Final Four. Let's go Big East.
Hey, they've been looking really good. You talk about, those three pillars of success, especially on that offensive side of the ball. And I think that's what's made them so hard to stop is you don't really know which one is going to take the forefront in any of these games. And sometimes it's been almost all of them. But Shireman has been having some great games from shooting. Obviously, Kalkbrenner's he's gonna keep doing his. And then you got Nemhard at the point. But San Diego State's defense has really jarred some people. And in this matchup, I'm going to stick with my guns as well. We had both talked about Creighton being, a sort of popular Cinderella Final Four. Obviously, they're still a really good team, but six seed
Cinderella is such a
and
loose term in this
yes, but
tournament
but like six
because,
seed and
like,
below is not necessarily
right.
common to make it out of a region. But I'm going to stick with Creighton here as well. The big thing is, I mean, I think that Alabama San Diego State is entirely different if Brandon Miller, makes some shots. He was 1 for 10 from three, and I want to say like 3 for 16 or 3 for 19. It
Mm-hmm.
was not pretty. If he makes a couple of shots, that game could have been entirely different. I love San Diego State's defense, but Creighton's offense I think is just going to stretch him a little too thin.
Yeah, you can give San Diego State all the credit in the world for
Oh
stopping
yeah,
Brandon Miller and
I mean
Alabama's offense because that is no
they were
small
a
feat in its own
popular
right.
upset fit. They were the popular upset pick in the first round, and here they are in the Elite Eight with a chance to book a ticket to the Final Four. I mean, this is, I believe, what I've saw is this is their first Elite Eight in program history, which is obviously really cool for them.
A lot of firsts, which I mean, it's really cool that we don't have the Duke, UNC, Kansas, Villanova, the traditional blue
It
bloods.
makes it for so much more
It's like a breath
just
of fresh air. It's like
yeah.
we get some new games in there. Speaking of which, the next matchup we have is Miami and Texas. How about
Hey,
them
this ain't
Canes,
new.
Tim?
This
How
ain't
about
new.
them
Miami's been
Canes?
here. Miami was here last year. This ain't
Miami
new.
was here last year, back to back Elite Eights, and you know what?
That's
Their
impressive.
their women's team is actually in the Elite Eight too. They beat Villanova in
Really,
that
really cool
upset.
for Miami Canes basketball. I mean,
This is
that's
like
just impressive.
this is the sixth best day in the history of Miami athletics. And like that is not an exaggeration because we have 5 football national championships and like this is probably right up next to it.
They are
But
looking really,
they
really
looked
good.
awesome against Houston. Their offense came to play. They outshot Houston. And like from top to bottom, their 4 guards and Norchad O'Meara, they all put together an offensive clinic. And when they're clicking, the sky is the limit for the Canes. You know, I love them. You know, you love them. And on the other side, we have Xavier and Texas. Tim, you banked on the coaching of Sean Miller to kind of come through there. But
Texas just
what
looks good,
can we
man.
say about this Texas team that hasn't already been said? They've been through battles. They're war tested. They
They're
know
war tested
how to
physically
win.
and mentally. I mean, we've obviously talked about all they've been through this year, but
They've been through so much this season, and winning the mental battle and staying mentally tough is just as important, if not more important, than staying physically tough when you get into the dog days of like really separating who's the contenders versus the pretenders in a tournament like this. And Texas just didn't make it too difficult to end Xavier's season. But with this game, I said last round, I'm sticking with Miami until they lose. They are on fire right now, and I'm going to pick them to go to the Final Four. First Final Four in program history. Miami is a basketball school. We throw up the U. Let's go. Come on. Fire me up, Tim. Fire me up about them Canes basketball. We're playing,
one thing
man.
the one thing I'll say about this matchup,
Oh, I need
obviously
some
we've
water.
talked about the Canes in many contexts here throughout, obviously heading into the postseason and through their tournament run. It's their guard play, and you give me any 3 guards on any of these teams and put them up against Miami's guards, and I'm going to pick Miami's guards every time, and I'm picking them here too. Because if there's one thing
Oh,
Texas does
let's go.
well,
Come
it
on.
scores with
Come
their guards. They
on.
they had a grand total of 0 points and 0 shots out of their 2 starting forwards in this game against Xavier. And if there's any team that can out battle you in the backcourt, it's going to be Miami. So Canes moving on, Final Four, baby.
It's the formula Jim Larrañaga has put together. The trio of guards, Isaiah Wong, Jordan Miller, Nigel Pack, learn their names, and also learn Norchad O'Meara, the
That
big
800K
man.
NIL deal for Nigel Pack is looking real good for them right now.
On that Nigel Pack. You know where Nigel Pack is from? Indianapolis. Future
Indianapolis
Butler Bulldog. That's what I'm going to say
played
right
against him at
here.
Warren Central. What a guy.
Oh, a man can dream. The next matchup we have is UConn and Gonzaga. UConn was clearly the better team in their matchup against Arkansas.
This
Didn't
was the
like
one game that really didn't
that
pose
was
much of a
never
battle.
in doubt. That was not much of a fight. A 23-point blowout from Danny Hurley and the Huskies. Arkansas just couldn't stop them. So there's really not much more we can say about that game. But Gonzaga and UCLA, my God, what a sequence. We had the game 2 years ago that had the epic ending. This one was just as good.
To end UCLA's Cinderella run as the
Yeah,
11th seed.
like this year, the last 12 seconds of that game was awesome. Julian Strother, my God, from the
That's just ice cold.
logo.
That's ice cold.
That is
He
ice
knew he
cold.
knew as soon as he
Mm-hmm.
caught it, he was pulling up for it no matter where he had the ball, and he just strapped it.
See,
Nothing more
Tim,
to it.
there's a time to play and there's a time to win. What you do in winning time separates the elite players from the just good.
But
And that's what makes a
let's just make it
champion.
clear though. Let's just make it clear though. They do not win that game without Drew Timme playing like an absolute animal. I mean, he had what, 36?
Yeah.
It's like 36 and 14 or 36 and 13. That was absolutely monster performance. He was the one that kept them in the game the whole way. And obviously, Strother picked it up
Of
in the
course,
final
you
5 or so
can't you
minutes.
can't tell the story of that game without those two guys. Tim, we actually had a discussion, me and my buddies, while we were watching that game, that like is Drew Timme one of the best college basketball players ever?
Ever.
And with that stat line,
with
there's
with,
a
with how much that he's with
discussion.
how much that he's played at that high of a level, you can't really keep him out of the conversation. Let's just say that. The big thing is can he reach the top of the peak and bring a national championship to Gonzaga? Because that's what he has not been able to do thus far.
And in this Elite Eight matchup, unfortunately, I'm sticking with the Big East to send two teams to the Final Four because who's going to stop UConn? Drew Timme and Adama Sanogo. Oh, that's
What
going
a
to be a
battle.
clash. That's going to be a clash. Like how well Adama Sanogo is playing right now. Drew Timme is the perfect foil to stop him. But is he going to be up to the challenge? I don't think so. It's going to be an amazing battle. I can't wait. I got the Huskies though.
This to me is going to be the most intense game to watch out of this Elite Eight slate, and specifically because of
Um,
these two big guys.
to be
What do you think?
continued. To be the most
That's
intense. We have one more matchup to get to, and I
that's
think
true. That
that
is
one
true.
might be a little bit more
That
intense.
that one's going to be an adventure, but let's just say in terms of the front
But in
court,
two
this
teams
is
of like
going to
two
be
teams playing at such a high level, like in terms of clash of titans, right?
yeah, both
UConn
of
and
these teams
Gonzaga.
have been playing at such a high
This is
level
what you get. That's what you
game in
get.
and game out in this tournament. Both of these teams have just plain out brought it. But I think it's going to be really interesting to see how Adama Sanogo and Drew Timme guard each other, but specifically, I think what's going to put this over the edge to me is I don't think Adama Sanogo on the defensive end is going to be able to keep up with Drew Timme's set of essentially his repertoire, his
His
arsenal on
bag.
offense. Yes, because Drew Timme can go deep in his bag. So I
His bag
love
season
this
for Timmer.
Gonzaga team. I love this Gonzaga team as a 3 seed. Like I've talked about how they are as like a top seed versus this 3 with a little bit of a chip on their shoulder. I think they're going to keep riding that. I got the Zags moving on to the Final Four.
It's the teams that you least expect that go on the run. The final game of the Elite Eight. Who would have thought that this would have been the matchup coming out of this region? Florida
Wow.
Atlantic and Kansas State. You're telling me the Florida Atlantic Owls or the Kansas State Wildcats are going to be a
Are
Final
booking a
Four
ticket.
team?
Yeah.
Booking a ticket to the
Think
Final
let that
Four?
soak in for a little bit.
Like that
Talk
alone.
about the stories on both sides. I mean, wow.
Let's start at FAU. FAU entered this tournament, no wins. And now they're a win away from making the Final Four. Your boy John L. Davis and that motley crew of high
They just
flying
they just do what they
offensive,
need to do.
they just take care of business and they do it so well, as seen in that win against Tennessee. Like FAU was a little bit
They bottled them.
down, but in the second half, it was like a 20-4 run. It was 5 consecutive threes. Bang, 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 bang. And suddenly Tennessee's
They
looking
hit the
around
fire when they
going, what
needed
the
to.
hell just happened? And they couldn't put the fire out. And FAU just sped right past them. On the other side, Kansas State with Jerome Tang taking on the mighty Tom Izzo in the
What
game of the
a
tournament.
game.
For as awesome as that Gonzaga UCLA ending was, Kansas State and Michigan State from start to
Dogfight the
finish,
whole way.
the best game of the tournament, hands down, 98-93 in overtime. And this was the Marquise Noel game, set a record for most assists.
Returning, hey, he's Mr. New York City.
He's so much more than just a little guy, and it is so special to watch him do what he does on a basketball court, especially with Keontae Johnson and what he's been through. Both of them second team All-Americans. They are shining on the biggest stage. And in this game, this is the toughest game to predict because, like, as these matchups came to a close, I was thinking about, I'm like, what the heck am I going to do here? Because these are both awesome teams, both awesome stories with awesome players and awesome coaches. Like,
You get to this point in the tournament, you can't just ride the hot hand because both teams that have
both
gotten
teams
here
are
are
hot.
the hot hand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's tough because like it doesn't seem like there's a wrong pick, but somebody's gonna lose.
Somebody has to lose.
I'm gonna ride with Kansas State. I'm gonna ride with Jerome Tang. I'm gonna ride with Marquise Noel. I'm gonna ride with Keontae Johnson. for as much as I love this FAU run and I've spoke volumes about it, it's just magic for K-State. And if K-State wins, that means Butler would have a win against the Final Four team this season. Don't forget.
I think you just won it just for that reason. But what a story!
Well, I think
What a
that's
story
just
both
the
of
icing
these.
on the cake that we beat them at
Yes,
Hinkle earlier this season.
yes,
Anything is
absolutely.
possible when you just believe.
Welcome to the story of these two teams and how they've gotten here. I mean, you talk about both of their
Yes.
runs, both of their players, coaching staffs. I absolutely love both of these teams. But I think they just got to do their thing, and that's what
Do
K
the
State
dang
is all
tang.
about. I
Do
think
the
they're going to
dang
do
tang,
their
baby.
thing, and I love FAU and their run has been incredible. But if there's one team that I don't like the way they match up to, it's kind of K State
Yeah.
because the guard play obviously is incredible with Marquise Noel, and obviously John L. Davis is going to have a hell of a battle
That's
on
going to
his
be a
hands.
matchup.
Yes, it's going to be one insane matchup to watch, but I'm not sure if I know who's going to be able to stop Keontae Johnson. And the combination of those two,
Well,
when they step it up, it is so hard to defend down the stretch. And Michigan State felt that. They felt that very, very much.
yep.
But
Yep.
I love what K-State has been doing, and I think that they've still got enough gas in the tank with that insane duo that they're going to be able to roll into the Final Four.
See, Tim, I wasn't convinced with Jerome Tang in his first year as head coach that Kansas State had enough experience, that they had earned their stripes yet, that they had been through adversity, that they'd been tested enough. This last round laid all those doubts to rest. Kansas State is here. They're ready. They're excited. And I can't wait for not just this matchup, but all the matchups in general. It's going to be a very, very fun tournament going forward.
We're getting close to narrowing down the road to Houston.
But that's all we got for our Elite Eight predictions. We've been running through the rest of the tournament. If you want to see how those predictions age, some well, some not so well, go check those out. We have lots of other stuff on the channel as far as college basketball, NBA, NFL, MLB is just right around the corner. You know, we can't wait for
Getting
that.
real close to opening day.
But if you want more from us, like and subscribe. And until next time, we out.